The voice on the line to the 911 operator was sharp, laced with an unnerving certainty. "Yes, I'm at 247 Maple Drive. There are two black girls disturbing the peace. You need to come quickly." The woman, Patricia Hendricks, ended the call and clutched her phone, her knuckles white. Soon, the serene evening air of Riverside Meadows was sliced apart by the strobing red and blue of police lights. On the curb sat two 8-year-old twin girls, their small faces streaked with tears. A white woman loomed over them, arms crossed, a finger pointing accusingly. "They don't belong in this neighborhood." Patricia Hendricks' voice was as cold and hard as ice. Period. "We weren't doing anything wrong," cried one of the girls, Maya. "This is our house." "I've lived here for 2 years," her sister Mia added, her voice trembling. "I've never seen you before in my life," Patricia shot back, her eyes narrow with suspicion. One of the police officers knelt slightly, his voice gentle in the tense air. "Where's your mother, girls?" "At the hospital," Mia sobbed. "She's a doctor. She does heart surgeries." Patricia let out a harsh, dismissive scoff. "A doctor? Oh, please. They're making up stories so they don't get arrested. They look like they're here to steal something." "We go to boarding school," Maya pleaded, her words desperate. "We just came home today for the weekend." "Boarding school, right?" Patricia mocked. "And I suppose you have proof? An ID? Your house key?" "Our key is inside," Maya explained. "We got locked out." "How convenient," Patricia sneered, turning her venom on the officers. "Every answer is just a little too convenient. Their mother is a doctor, but she's not here. Officers, I know this might seem harsh, but we have to protect our community. These girls appear from nowhere with their well-rehearsed little story." "We're not lying," Mia screamed through a fresh wave of tears. "Then prove it," Patricia challenged coldly. "You can't, can you? Because you are thieves and you don't belong here. I will see to it that you are arrested today." The twins clung to each other, their small bodies shaking with fear. An officer spoke, his voice heavy with reluctance. "Girls, we'll need you to sit in the patrol car while we try to verify your story." "No, please," they begged in unison, their eyes wide with terror. "Our mom will be here soon." Patricia watched, a grim satisfaction settling over her. She was doing the right thing, protecting her home, her neighbors. Then, the night was shattered by the roar of an engine. A black SUV screeched into the driveway, its tires protesting against the pavement. The driver's door flew open and a woman emerged, still dressed in surgical scrubs, a hospital ID badge swinging from a lanyard around her neck. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, swept across the scene. The police cars, the gawking neighbors, and finally landed on her two daughters, huddled and crying on the curb. As the woman rushed forward and enveloped the trembling girls in her arms, Patricia Hendricks's smug expression dissolved. It melted away into a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. She had no idea who this woman was, but a cold, creeping dread was beginning to dawn in the pit of her stomach. She was about to learn that she had not just called the police on two innocent children. She had made the single greatest mistake of her life. To understand the profound weight of that moment, the collision of two mothers on a quiet suburban street, one must rewind the clock just a few hours, to a morning when the world was still full of promise. It was 6 a.m. when Dr. Valerie Thompson's black SUV glided into the circular driveway of Riverside Academy, one of the state's most prestigious boarding schools. The sun was just beginning to spill over the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink. She stepped out, pulling her coat tighter against the pre-dawn chill. And there they were, Maya and Mia Thompson, two identical 8-year-old bundles of joy, standing by the school's grand entrance with their rolling suitcases. The moment they saw her car, their faces lit up. "Mommy!" they screamed in perfect unison, abandoning their luggage and sprinting across the manicured lawn. Dr. Valerie Thompson, one of the most respected cardiothoracic surgeons in the state, a woman who held human hearts in her hands without a tremor, dropped to her knees on the cold pavement. Tears streamed freely down her face as her daughters crashed into her arms. "My babies," she whispered, holding them so tightly she could feel their small hearts beating against her own. "My beautiful, beautiful girls. Mommy missed you so much." It had been 8 long weeks. 8 weeks of video calls and care packages with love notes tucked inside. 8 weeks of a house that was too quiet, of dinners for one, of coming home to silence instead of the beautiful, chaotic symphony of her children's laughter. Maya pulled back, her eyes shining. "We missed you too, Mommy. We have so much to tell you." "I got an A on my science project," Mia added, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "And I learned a new song on the piano. Can I play it for you when we get home?" Valerie laughed through her tears, kissing both of their foreheads. "Yes, my loves. You can tell me everything. We have the whole weekend, just us, and a mountain of pancakes." The drive home was a blur of excited chatter. The twins, nestled in the back seat, talked over each other, finishing each other's sentences and giggling at inside jokes. They told her about their teachers, their friends, the totally gross food in the dining hall, and the school Halloween party they were sad to miss. Valerie watched them in the rearview mirror, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was why she did it. Every grueling shift, every complex surgery, every exhausting day. It was also her daughters could have the opportunity she never did. Their father, Michael, would have been so proud. A firefighter, he had died 3 years ago, rushing into a burning building to save a trapped family. He had gotten them all out, every last one, but he never made it out himself. The girls had only been 5. In the fog of her grief, Valerie had barely been able to function, but her daughters depended on her, so she pulled herself together and worked harder than ever. When the chance came to send them to Riverside Academy, a place with the best counselors and programs where they could heal and thrive, she took it, even though the distance broke her heart every single day. "Mommy, is our room still the same?" Maya asked as they turned into the familiar streets of Riverside Meadows. "Exactly the same, sweetheart. Waiting for you, just how you left it." The house at 247 Maple Drive was a beautiful 2-story colonial. Valerie had bought it 2 years ago, a fresh start after accepting her position at Mercy General Hospital. Most of the neighbors were polite, but distant. They would nod or wave, but she always felt a certain coolness. She was the single black woman who lived alone, who left before dawn and returned after dark. She knew what some of them thought, felt it in their lingering stares. But Valerie Thompson hadn't gotten where she was by worrying about the opinions of small-minded people. As they pulled into the driveway across the street, Patricia Hendricks watched from her living room window. She watched the comings and goings of Riverside Meadows with a proprietary air. She knew the woman in the colonial only as a solitary figure, and now she was watching 2 little black girls pulling suitcases from the trunk. Patricia frowned. In 2 years, she had never seen children at that house. Not once. Who were they? She made a mental note. One could never be too careful. Inside, the Thompson home erupted with life. "Our room!" the twins shrieked, racing up the stairs. The room was just as they'd left it. Matching purple comforters, shelves overflowing with books and stuffed animals, and on the nightstand, photos of their father, his warm, handsome smile frozen in time. "It's so good to be home," Mia sighed, flopping onto her bed. Valerie sat on the edge of the mattress, her heart clenching as Mia added softly, "We miss you, Mommy." "I miss you too, baby. Every single day," she promised. "This is just for a little while longer. I promise." They spent the morning in a cocoon of happiness. Valerie made chocolate chip pancakes from their father's recipe. They curled up on the couch to watch cartoons. It was perfect. But at 1 o'clock, reality intruded. Valerie had a routine valve replacement surgery scheduled for 2. She had arranged for Emma, a college student, to babysit from 1:30 until she returned around 5. "Okay, my loves," she said, pulling on her scrubs. "Emma will be here in 30 minutes. You remember the rules?" "Don't answer the door for strangers," Maya recited. "Stay inside with the doors locked," Mia added. "And call you if we need anything," they finished together. "Perfect." She kissed them goodbye, grabbed her keys, and headed out, her heart full. She had no idea it would be the last time she'd see them safe and happy for hours. Across the street, Patricia Hendricks was living her own private nightmare. Her 10-year-old son, Marcus, had woken up that morning with chest pains and a faint bluish tint to his lips. He'd been born with a congenital heart defect. A frantic trip to Mercy General had ended with the words every parent dreads. "Mrs. Hendricks," the cardiologist had said, his face grave. "Marcus's condition has deteriorated. He needs surgery, possibly within the next 24 to 48 hours. Now, Patricia sat by the window, her nerves frayed, her phone clutched in her hand, waiting for the hospital to call with a date. Her fear was a living thing, making her see threats everywhere, even in two innocent little girls who would soon find themselves locked out of their own home. At 1:15, Emma, the babysitter, called Valerie in a panic. Her car had broken down on the highway. Valerie was already at the hospital, scrubbing in. Her patient was prepped. She had 15 minutes. She made a quick decision. The girls were responsible. They'd be fine for an hour or two on their own. "It's okay, Emma," she said calmly. "Just get there when you can. I'll call the girls." She did, reminding them one last time of the rules. "We'll be fine, Mommy," Maya assured her. "We're big girls." Valerie hung up, took a deep breath, and walked into the operating room. Her phone went into a locker, per hospital policy. She was completely unreachable, unaware that a simple, childish mistake was about to set in motion a chain of events that would bring her world crashing into Patricia Hendricks's in the most devastating way imaginable. At exactly 3 o'clock, while Dr. Valerie Thompson was meticulously repairing a patient's damaged heart, her daughters made an innocent decision. "I'm going to get the mail," Maya announced, hopping up from the couch. "Wait, I'll come with you," Mia said, following her to the front door. They stepped out into the crisp October afternoon. Maya skipped to the mailbox while Mia waited on the porch. Behind them, the front door, equipped with an automatic lock, clicked shut with a soft final sound. When Maya returned, she reached for the doorknob. It didn't turn. Mia," her voice was small. "Did you bring the key?" Mia's eyes went wide. "I thought you had it." Panic began to set in. They checked their pockets. Nothing. The key was inside on the kitchen counter. They ran to the back of the house, trying every door, every window. All were locked tight, just as their mother had taught them. Defeated, they trudged back to the front and sat on the steps. "What do we do?" Maya whispered, her lip trembling. "We wait," Mia said, trying to sound brave. "Emma will be here soon, and Mommy will be home at 5. We'll be fine." So they sat, two little girls on their own front porch, completely unaware of the eyes watching them from across the street. Patricia Hendricks had just returned home, her mind a maelstrom of fear for her son. Then, movement caught her eye. Two young black girls sitting on the porch of the house where that solitary woman lived. Her mind, already primed for disaster, leaped to the worst possible conclusion. She had never seen children there. They didn't belong. They must be up to no good. And in her state of fear and paranoia, she picked up her phone. "Who are these children?" she muttered, her breath fogging the glass as she drew closer to the window. For 15 minutes, Patricia had been a silent, unseen observer. The girls weren't doing anything overtly suspicious, she had to admit. They were just sitting on the porch steps, their voices a low murmur, occasionally rising to try the doorknob again. But to Patricia's mind, a place already clouded by prejudice and fear, every innocent gesture was magnified into a threat. Why did they keep trying the door? Were they testing for an empty house? Plotting a break-in? And where were their parents? The question echoed in her head, laced with an unspoken accusation. Why were two young black girls in this neighborhood unsupervised? Her phone buzzed, a sharp vibration against the wood of the windowsill. A text from the hospital. "We've scheduled Marcus's surgery for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a.m. Dr. Valerie Thompson will be performing the procedure. Please arrive by 6 o'clock a.m. for pre-op." The surgeon's name was a blur of letters she barely registered. Her focus was entirely consumed by the perceived threat across the street. A decision hardened within her. She was going to confront them. She stepped outside, making a show of checking her mailbox, an act she'd already performed that morning. The twins noticed her instantly. Raised to be polite, they offered small, hopeful smiles and a wave. Patricia did not wave back. Instead, her gaze, cold and appraising, locked onto them before she started walking directly across the street, her purpose clear in every stiff step. The girls' smiles faltered, then vanished as they watched the stranger approach with such open hostility. "Excuse me," Patricia said, her tone already sharp, accusatory. "What are you two doing here?" Maya and Mia exchanged a nervous glance. Something in the woman's voice set them on edge, but their mother's lessons on respecting their elders were deeply ingrained. "We live here, ma'am," Maya said politely. "We're just waiting for our mom." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "You live here? I've never seen you before, and I've lived across the street for 2 years." We go to boarding school, Mia explained, her voice shrinking under the woman's harsh glare. We just came home today. It's our first time back since September. Patricia let out a short, derisive scoff that made both girls flinch. Boarding school? Right. She looked them up and down. Two small black girls in casual clothes, backpacks at their feet, their faces open and innocent. She simply could not, or would not, believe them. Where is your mother? At work, Maya answered. She's a doctor at the hospital. She gets home at 5. A doctor? Patricia's voice dripped with mockery. The idea was so preposterous to her that she almost laughed. And you go to boarding school? She made it sound like the most ridiculous lie she had ever heard. Girls like you don't go to boarding schools, she said, her prejudice finally shedding its thin veil. And the woman who lives in that house doesn't have any children. I would know. I've been watching this house for 2 years. The twins stared at each other, confusion warring with a rising tide of fear. Girls like us? Maya asked, her voice trembling. What? What do you mean? Patricia's jaw tightened. You know exactly what I mean. This is a respectable neighborhood. The implication hung between them, a toxic fog. I've lived here 2 years, she continued, her voice rising with self-righteous anger. That woman is always alone, no children, ever. Now suddenly 2 little black girls appear out of nowhere claiming they live here. Do you think I'm stupid? Tears welled in Maya's eyes. We do live here. We came home from school this morning. Then where are your uniforms? Patricia demanded. Where's your luggage? Show me some proof. It's inside, Mia sobbed, pointing a trembling finger at the door. We're locked out. Our key is inside. Patricia laughed, a harsh, cruel sound that echoed in the quiet street. How convenient. Every answer you have is perfectly convenient, isn't it? You can't prove anything, because it's all locked inside a house that isn't yours. She took a step closer, her shadow falling over them. I think you're here to rob the place, casing the house, waiting for the owner to leave so you can break in. The twins clutched each other, their small bodies trembling. This was no longer just uncomfortable, it was terrifying. A grown woman was accusing them, 2 8-year-old girls, of being criminals. Please, Maya begged, tears streaming down her face. Please, just call our mommy, she'll tell you. Her number is... I'm not calling anyone. Patricia cut her off coldly. I'm calling the police. No, both girls cried out in unison. Please don't, we're telling the truth. But Patricia had already pulled out her phone. She dialed 911, and when the dispatcher answered, her voice transformed, adopting a tone of grave, urgent concern. Yes, I need to report 2 suspicious children attempting to access a residence on Maple Drive, she said, her eyes fixed on the sobbing twins. They claim they live here, but I know the homeowner and she lives alone. They're clearly lying. She paused, listening. Yes, they're still here. 2 young black girls. They don't belong in this neighborhood. The racial undertones were unmistakable. She wasn't just reporting suspicious activity. She was reporting the presence of black children in a place she had decided they were unwelcome. Terrified, Maya fumbled for the emergency cell phone their mother had given her. With shaking fingers, she dialed. It rang, and finally went to voicemail. Mommy, please pick up, she sobbed into the receiver. Please, Mommy, there's a lady. She called the police on us. She won't believe us and we're so scared. Please call back, please. But Dr. Valerie Thompson's phone was silent, tucked away in a locker outside the operating room. She was elbow deep in a complex surgery, her entire being focused on the life in her hands, completely unaware that her own daughters needed saving too. Defeated, the twins walked to the curb and sat down, holding hands so tightly their knuckles turned white. They pressed against each other, seeking a sliver of comfort as tears streamed down their faces. Patricia stood over them like a sentinel, arms crossed, a look of grim satisfaction on her face. In her mind, she was a hero, a responsible neighbor protecting her community. Doors began to open up and down the street. Mrs. Miller from number 42, Mr. Chen from down the block, the Johnsons from the corner. Some emerged with looks of concern, others with simple curiosity. A few had their phones out, already recording. What's going on, Patricia? Mrs. Miller called out. I found these girls trying to break into the Thompson house, Patricia announced, her voice loud enough for all to hear. They have some story about living there, but we all know Dr. Thompson lives alone. I've called the police. A few neighbors nodded in approval. Others shifted uncomfortably but remained silent. The twins felt the weight of all those eyes on them, judging them, seeing them not as children, but as threats. In the distance, a siren began to wail, a mournful sound that grew closer with each passing second. Patricia stood a little taller. The police were coming. She had done her civic duty. She had no idea that she had just set in motion a chain of events that would shatter her world. No idea that the mother of these crying children was, at that very moment, holding a stranger's heart in her hands. And no idea that tomorrow morning she would be in a hospital waiting room, praying for a miracle to save her own son's life. The universe has a strange way of teaching its hardest lessons, and Patricia Hendricks was about to learn hers. The police cruiser pulled up, its flashing lights painting the street in strokes of red and blue. Two officers emerged. Officer Bradley, a white man in his 50s with a weary expression, and Officer Martinez, a younger Latino officer whose face already held a trace of unease. Before they could even speak, Patricia launched into her narrative. Officers, thank you for coming so quickly. I'm Patricia Hendricks. I've lived across the street for 2 years. That woman, she said, gesturing to the house, has no children, none. These two just showed up with this fabricated story about boarding school. Ignoring her, Officer Martinez crouched down to the twins' level, his voice gentle. Hi there. What are your names? Maya Thompson, she managed through her tears. And this is my sister, Mia. And you live here? Yes, sir. We go to Riverside Academy. It's a boarding school. We just came home for a visit today. Officer Bradley spoke into his radio. Dispatch, run a property check on 247 Maple Drive. The radio crackled in response. Registered owner is a Valerie Thompson. See? Patricia interjected. Valerie Thompson lives there, but she lives alone. They must have gotten the name off the mail. Do you have any ID, a house key? Bradley asked the girls. Maya's voice broke. Everything is inside. We're locked out. We're only 8. We don't have IDs. What's your mother's full name? Martinez asked. Dr. Valerie Thompson. She's a heart surgeon at Mercy General. Patricia let out another mocking laugh. Officer Martinez took the phone number Maya gave him and dialed. It rang and went straight to voicemail. See? Patricia said, her face triumphant. No answer. She's in surgery, Maya cried. She can't have her phone on. Why won't you believe us? Officer Bradley made a call of his own. After a moment, he hung up, a flicker of uncertainty on his face. There is a Dr. Valerie Thompson on staff at Mercy General. She's a cardiothoracic surgeon currently in a procedure. But Patricia was relentless. That doesn't prove these are her children. Mrs. Miller stepped forward. Officer, I've lived here 5 years. I've never seen any children at that house. Mr. Chen nodded. The woman there is very quiet, always by herself. Please, Maya begged, her voice raw. Just wait. Mommy will be home at 5. That's less than an hour. Officer Bradley shook his head. I'm sorry, but your story has too many holes. We may have to call Child Protective Services. No! The twins screamed, grabbing each other as if they could physically prevent themselves from being separated. 15 miles away, Dr. Thompson stripped off her surgical gloves and finally checked her phone. 35 missed calls. Her blood ran cold. She played the first voicemail, and her daughter's terrified voice filled the quiet locker room. Mommy, please pick up. A lady called the police. We're so scared. She was running before the message even finished. As she reached her car, her phone rang again, the hospital's main line. Dr. Thompson, we have an emergency pediatric case. Marcus Hendricks, 10 years old, critical cardiac condition. He needs surgery. Now, or he won't survive the next 2 hours. You're the only surgeon available. Her hand was on the car door handle. I have a family emergency, she said, her voice tight with panic. My daughter's... Doctor, this child doesn't have that much time. If we don't operate within the hour, he will die. For a single, agonizing moment, Dr. Thompson was frozen, torn between two impossible, heart-shattering choices. Find another surgeon, she choked out. My children need me. She hung up and peeled out of the parking garage, her mind a storm of terrifying images. The phone rang again. She ignored it. A text appeared. "Dr. Thompson, please. The boy will die. His name is Marcus Hendricks." Her foot pressed harder on the accelerator. Her daughters came first. Back on Maple Drive, Officer Bradley was radioing for a social worker. The twins were crying harder now, the real and terrifying possibility of being taken away from their mother sinking in. Patricia watched, her arms crossed, feeling utterly vindicated. And then, at exactly 4:50 p.m., the piercing screech of tires sliced through the air. A black SUV flew around the corner, slamming to a stop in the driveway of 247 Maple Drive. The driver's door flew open and Dr. Valerie Thompson jumped out, still in her surgical scrubs, a hospital badge swinging from her neck. The name was visible to everyone. Dr. Valerie Thompson, cardiothoracic surgery. Her eyes took in the scene in a single, devastating sweep. The police cars, the gawking neighbors, Patricia standing smugly on the lawn, and finally, her two beautiful daughters, sitting on the curb, their faces stained with tears. "Maya! Mia!" Their heads snapped up. "Mommy!" they screamed, scrambling to their feet and running into her arms. Dr. Thompson dropped to her knees and enveloped them, holding them so tightly it was as if she could absorb their fear into her own body. "I'm here, babies," she whispered into their hair. "Mommy's got you." Officer Martinez approached cautiously. "Ma'am, are you Dr. Valerie Thompson?" She looked up, her face wet with tears but her gaze as sharp as a scalpel. "Yes, these are my daughters, Maya and Mia, and someone needs to explain to me right now why there are police cars in front of my house." "Ma'am," Officer Bradley began, clearing his throat, "we received a call about two unidentified children attempting to access the residence." "Unidentified?" Dr. Thompson stood, pulling a folder from her car with shaking hands. "My children live here." She thrust a stack of documents at the officer. Birth certificates, boarding school enrollment forms, complete with photos, a family picture from her wallet, her own driver's license, clearly displaying the Maple Drive address. Officer Bradley examined them, his face growing grim. "Ma'am," Martinez said, his voice filled with genuine regret, "we sincerely apologize. We were told you didn't have any children. We were just responding to—" "Told by whom?" Dr. Thompson's voice was ice cold. Her eyes scanned the crowd and landed on Patricia Hendricks. Patricia's face had gone chalk white. She could read the badge now. "Dr. Valerie Thompson, cardiothoracic surgery, Mercy General Hospital." The name from the text message. And suddenly, the hospital administrator's words from 20 minutes earlier came rushing back. "Mrs. Hendricks, your son Marcus is in critical condition, Chauvin. We have a surgeon on standby, Dr. Valerie Thompson. She's the only one who can perform the surgery. But the surgeon wasn't at the hospital. She was here, because Patricia had called the police on her children." "Oh my God," Patricia whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. Dr. Thompson's gaze narrowed into a laser point. You called the police on my 8-year-old daughters?" I didn't know," Patricia stammered. "I've never seen them before. I thought—" "You thought what?" Dr. Thompson demanded, taking a step toward her, her voice shaking with a rage that was terrifying in its control. "That black women can't be surgeons? That black children can't go to boarding school? You saw two little girls on their own front porch, and you assumed they were criminals." The crowd of neighbors stood in stunned, shameful silence. Dr. Thompson's voice dropped to a deadly whisper that cut through the air. "They are 8 years old." A tense silence fell over the onlookers as they shifted, their discomfort palpable. Before Patricia could formulate a response, Dr. Thompson's phone shattered the quiet with an insistent buzz. She pulled it from her pocket, her jaw tightening as the caller ID flared on the screen. Answering without ever breaking her gaze from Patricia, she listened. "Dr. Thompson?" The voice on the other end was a frantic wire of panic. Her expression hardened with each passing word. "Yes," she said, her voice low and controlled. "I know about Marcus Hendricks. I told you to find another surgeon." A pause, pregnant with unspoken urgency. "What do you mean there's no one else available?" Another longer pause. The war raging within her was visible on her face, a flicker of conflict in her eyes. "How long does he have?" She shut her eyes for a fleeting second, as if to brace herself. "I understand. I'll call you back." She hung up. The color had drained from Patricia's face, leaving a sickly, ashen pallor. A violent tremor started in her legs. That's my son, Marcus," she stammered. "He's dying, isn't he?" Dr. Thompson offered no words of comfort, only the unwavering stare of her piercing eyes. The strength fled from Patricia's limbs and her knees gave out. She collapsed onto the pavement, the sound a ragged, desperate sob. "Please," she begged, the word tearing from her throat. "Please, Dr. Thompson, I'm begging you. He's all I have." The neighbors watched, frozen in disbelief, as the woman who had stood so righteous, so certain, so cruel just moments before, now groveled on the asphalt. "I know what I did," Patricia gasped through a torrent of tears. "I was horrible. I was wrong. Your daughters. I'm so sorry, but please, please don't let my son die because of me." Dr. Thompson remained a statue of composure, her daughters still clinging to her waist like anchors in a storm. "Please," Patricia wept openly now, her voice raw with anguish. "He's just a little boy. He didn't do anything. I did. Punish me, hate me, but please don't punish him. I'll do anything, anything." The twins looked up at their mother's stone-like face, their young minds struggling to grasp the sudden violent shift in the world. Maya's voice was a fragile whisper. "Mommy, is that lady's little boy really sick?" Dr. Thompson gave a single stiff nod, her jaw clenched tight. Mia's question was even quieter. "Are you the only one who can help him?" "Yes, baby." Maya's voice was small, laced with a dawning horror. "Is he going to die if you don't help?" The battle inside Dr. Thompson was a silent, raging inferno. Every maternal instinct screamed at her to turn away, to let this woman reap the bitter harvest she had sown. This woman who had traumatized her children, who had treated them like criminals, who had made them cry and shake and beg. But at the center of the storm was the image of a child, an innocent 10-year-old boy who had done nothing wrong except be born to a mother consumed by hate. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Patricia's sobs were the only sound, her whole body racked with tremors. The neighbors held their breath. The officers watched, a grim understanding dawning on their faces as they recognized the impossible choice before the doctor. Finally, Dr. Thompson closed her eyes and drew a deep, shuddering breath. When she opened them, her voice was as steady and cold as ice. "I took an oath," she said, each word a carefully placed stone. "To save lives, to do no harm." Patricia's head snapped up, a desperate, drowning hope flooding her tear-streaked face. "Thank you. Oh God, thank you." "I am not doing this for you," Dr. Thompson cut her off, her tone sharp enough to draw blood. "I am doing this because your son is an innocent child who does not deserve to die because his mother is a bigot." Patricia flinched as if struck, but she nodded, the tears still flowing. Dr. Thompson knelt, taking her daughter's small faces in her hands. "Mommy has to go save a little boy's life." The twins' eyes were wide with fear and confusion. "But Mommy," Mia whispered, "she was mean to us." "I know, baby. She was very, very wrong. But her little boy didn't do anything. He's sick, and he needs my help." Maya's eyes welled with fresh tears, but she gave a slow, hesitant nod. "Like Daddy used to save people? Even when it was scary?" The words caught in Dr. Thompson's throat. "Yes, sweetheart," she breathed. "Exactly like Daddy." She stood and faced Officer Martinez. "Can you make sure my daughters get to Mrs. Carter's next door? She's expecting them." "Of course, ma'am." Dr. Thompson turned back to Patricia, who was still a crumpled figure on the ground. "I am going to save your son. But when this is over, you and I are going to have a very serious conversation about what you did to my children. Do you understand me?" Patricia nodded frantically. Yes, anything. Thank you." Without another word, Dr. Thompson kissed both her daughters one last time, whispered, "I love you," and climbed back into her SUV. As she sped away, Patricia remained on her knees in the middle of the street, watching the red taillights disappear into the evening. She had just been given a grace she did not deserve, a mercy she had not earned, a second chance she had no right to receive. And for the first time in her life, Patricia Hendricks understood the devastating weight of being truly, utterly wrong. The black SUV roared toward the hospital, racing against the fading light, carrying the only hope for a 10-year-old boy whose life hung by a fragile thread. At 5:15 p.m., Dr. Thompson burst through the emergency entrance. In the seconds it took to cross the threshold, the devastated mother vanished, replaced by the focused, formidable surgeon. This was her arena. This was who she was. Marcus Hendricks was already on the operating table, his small, draped body a still point in a storm of beeping monitors and hushed, urgent voices. A wave of palpable relief washed over the surgical team as she entered. "Status?" she demanded, scrubbing in with a swift, practiced efficiency. 10-year-old male, congenital heart defect, severe deterioration, the lead nurse reported. "He's critical, doctor. We have maybe an hour before we lose him." Through the observation window, she saw him. Unconscious, vulnerable. Patricia's son. The son of the woman who had terrorized her daughters less than an hour ago. A primal part of her wanted to walk away, to let justice run its course. But then she saw his face. Not the face of his mother's hate, but simply the face of a child. An innocent child who deserved to live. "Let's save his life," she said, her voice calm and resolute as she pushed through the doors. For the next 6 hours, Dr. Valerie Thompson orchestrated what her team would later call a surgical masterpiece. Her hands were steady, her focus absolute. She built a wall in her mind, locking away every personal feeling, every ounce of pain and anger, and became the healer she had spent a lifetime training to be. 3 hours in, the unthinkable happened. Marcus's heart began to fail. The monitors shrieked, a piercing cry of alarm that sent a jolt of tension through the room. "We're losing him!" someone called out. But Dr. Thompson's voice cut through the panic, calm and commanding. "No, we are not. Increase the epinephrine. Adjust the bypass. We are not losing him today." And they didn't. Her expertise, her skill, her sheer refusal to surrender wove together in those critical moments. She saved him, not because of who his mother was, but in spite of it. In the surgical waiting room, Patricia Hendricks was coming apart. She paced relentlessly, her face blotchy, her hands trembling. Her family had arrived, her mother, her sister, even Marcus's father, and she had confessed everything. "I called the police on her children," she sobbed to her mother. "2 little girls. I was so cruel to them, Mom, and now she's in there, saving Marcus." Her mother's expression was a mixture of horror and profound disappointment. "Patricia, what on earth were you thinking?" "I don't know," Patricia whispered, the words barely audible. I thought they didn't belong. God, I thought such terrible things, and I was wrong. So wrong." Her sister's voice was quiet, laced with disbelief. "Why is she helping him after what you did?" Patricia shook her head, fresh tears tracing paths through the old ones. "I don't know. She could have refused. No one would have blamed her. But she's in there, fighting for my son." For 6 agonizing hours, Patricia sat with the crushing weight of her actions. She had nearly killed her own son with her bigotry. If Dr. Thompson had chosen revenge over mercy, Marcus would be gone, and the fault would be hers alone. Finally, at 11:20 p.m., the doors to the surgical suite opened. Dr. Thompson emerged, her scrubs a testament to the battle she had just fought, her face etched with exhaustion. As she pulled off her surgical cap, Patricia scrambled toward her. "Is he—" The words caught in her throat. Dr. Thompson's expression was a mask of professional neutrality. "The surgery was a success. Your son is going to make a full recovery." Patricia collapsed to her knees right there in the sterile hallway, a sob of such powerful relief shaking her entire body that it seemed to come from the very earth. "Thank you," she wept. "Oh God, thank you." Dr. Thompson turned to leave, but Patricia's voice stopped her. "Dr. Thompson, wait. Please." She paused, but did not turn around. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," Patricia said, her voice cracking. "What I did to your daughters? There's no excuse. I was completely, horribly wrong." Dr. Thompson finally turned to face her. Her eyes held the deep weariness of the surgeon, but also something else, something Patricia couldn't name. "No. Dr. Thompson said softly. There isn't an excuse. Then why? Patricia asked, her voice desperate. Why did you save him? Dr. Thompson was silent for a long moment, the air thick with unspoken things. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but heavy with the weight of her conviction. Because someone has to be the one to break the cycle. Because hatred dies when we choose grace over revenge. She paused, her gaze meeting Patricia's. But make no mistake, grace doesn't mean what you did was acceptable. It means I will not let your poison infect my soul. I will not let your hatred make me like you. Patricia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Without another word, Dr. Thompson walked away, leaving Patricia kneeling in the silent hospital corridor, a woman forever changed. The weeks that followed were a quiet, painful journey of transformation. As Marcus recovered with the stunning resilience of youth, Patricia sat by his side and told him everything. She told him about the two little girls, about the terrible things she'd said, and about the profound depth of her mistake. Marcus looked at his mother, his young face a canvas of confusion and disappointment. Mom, why would you do that? They were just kids, like me. I know, baby, she whispered, her heart aching, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure I never make that mistake again. She enrolled in anti-racism workshops and attended diversity training seminars. She began volunteering at youth centers in other neighborhoods, working with children who looked just like Maya and Mia, slowly learning to see past her own blindness. 2 months later, at a neighborhood meeting, she stood before her community and shared her story, her voice shaking but resolute. I almost cost my son his life because of my prejudice, she confessed. I saw 2 black children and assumed the worst. The mother I traumatized is the same woman who saved my son. She showed me a grace I in no way deserved. 2 months after the surgery, Patricia stood on Dr. Thompson's porch, a small package trembling in her hands. When the door opened, she half expected it to be slammed in her face. I know you don't want to see me, she said quickly, but Marcus, he made something for Maya and Mia. She held out the package. Dr. Thompson took it, her expression guarded as she opened it. Inside were children's drawings in crayon and marker, hearts, rainbows, and smiling faces. And in a child's careful handwriting were the words, "Thank you for saving my life. Your mom is a hero. Love, Marcus." A subtle softening came over Dr. Thompson's features. He knows what I did, Patricia's voice broke. I told him everything. He's ashamed of me, but he wanted to thank your daughters for having a mother who was a better person than I am. Dr. Thompson looked at the drawings for a long moment, then back at Patricia. She didn't smile, but she gave a small acknowledging nod. I'll give these to them. It was a small thing, but it was a beginning. Later, when Maya and Mia saw the drawings, they looked up at their mother. Can we make him some pictures too? Mia asked. Dr. Thompson looked at her daughters. They had endured a trauma, yes, but they were also learning a profound lesson about forgiveness, about grace, about refusing to let hate win. Yes, she said softly. You can make him some too. From the ashes of that terrible day, something fragile and beautiful began to grow. Through carefully supervised meetings, Marcus and the twins became friends. They were, after all, just children, innocent of the sins of their parents. Patricia never asked for forgiveness. She knew she hadn't earned it. Instead, she worked tirelessly to become a person worthy of it. 6 months later, Riverside Meadows held its annual block party. The cul-de-sac was a vibrant mosaic of families, music, and laughter. And there, in the middle of it all, were Marcus, Maya, and Mia, playing together without a shadow of the past between them. Patricia watched from a distance, a quiet smile on her face. Dr. Thompson was talking with other neighbors, finally beginning to feel at home. Hesitantly, Patricia approached her. Dr. Thompson? The doctor turned. Thank you, Patricia said simply. Not just for Marcus, for showing me who I needed to become. Dr. Thompson regarded her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, a small, genuine smile touched her lips. We're all still becoming, she said. Every day. It was not absolution. The wounds were still healing. But it was something more real, an understanding that people can change, that redemption is possible, and that grace has the power to transform the hardest of hearts. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, a community once fractured by prejudice was slowly, carefully, piecing itself back together, stronger than before.